Two more former aides to New York Governor Andrew Cuomo have accused him of sexual harassment. As of Sunday, that makes 5 women total who have come forward to accuse Cuomo of creating a hostile environment. 4 of those women are former staffers. One of them was a woman from a wedding. Now, I'll give you the more recent allegations, including those from Anna Liss, a former policy and operations aide to Cuomo from 2013 to 2015. Who told the Wall Street Journal that the governor repeatedly inquired about her personal life, touched her, and on one occasion even kissed her hand. And according to the Wall Street Journal, Liss's allegations were actually backed up by recollections from multiple anonymous former staffers as well. Karen Hinton, a former Cuomo aide who also worked with the now governor as a consultant when he led the New York Department of Housing and Urban Development, told the Washington Post that Cuomo invited her to his hotel, asked her personal questions about her marriage, and hugged her repeatedly in a manner that was very long, too tight, too intimate when she attempted to leave. And so the other 2 former aides, which we've talked about on this show already, include Lindsey Boylan and also Charlotte Bennett, who both of them had accused Cuomo of sexual harassment. And then there's the 3rd woman who, of course, met Cuomo at a friend's wedding, and a photo was released from that interaction where Cuomo awkwardly had his hands on her face, at the wedding. So, Cenk, there are increased calls by state lawmakers for Cuomo to step down, but he's refusing to do so. I'll go to that video of Cuomo's statements in just a second, but I wanted to get your thoughts.
All right, so look, it started out bad. It's now pretty disastrous. So we give proper context here to all this. So there were 5 women overall, as Anna explained. 4 of them worked for him, and one was at the wedding. 3 of them have alleged some sort of touching. There's a range of touching, and honestly, there's been mainly a perception of that's generational in the past, where some in the older generations, and I 100% recognize I'm overgeneralizing, but I'm giving you a rough sense of the context here. View the kissing on the cheek or holding someone you just met in a tight hug, might view that as not that outrageous. And others view it as completely outrageous. You just met the person, what are you doing? Are you and just flat out trying to kiss someone, including the first woman that came forward. She worked for him. Out of the blue, he tried to kiss her, according to her account. So to me, that's probably the most egregious of all the actions. But the physical contact is obviously relevant. And if to me, if anyone that worked with her can show, and he keeps saying, hey, look, I just want Letitia James, I think I got to get her name.
Yeah, Letitia James.
Yeah. I'm gonna let her investigation play out here, but that might not work out so well for you. But I think that there's an interesting point, a perfectly legitimate case to say you should resign now. It's 5 women, yet there's a different range within the 5 women, but plus the nursing homes, plus, by the way, the part that nobody talks about except Anna wrote it in an op-ed and everybody ignores it, is you cut Medicaid in the first place, which limited the hospital rooms, which forced you to send people back to the nursing homes, which led to all those deaths. All those things combined is a pretty critical case here against Cuomo. But even if he's just holding on for the investigation to come on, he's obviously doing it so that it'll try to blow over in terms of the news cycle. That's what he's most worried about. But at that point, it might come back and show, yeah, he did do these things, most of which he doesn't deny. He denies that one person that Anna read you about now, because he says she's a political opponent, but the rest he really hasn't denied much at all. That might lead to a very bad conclusion for him, no matter what.
So regarding the op-ed that Cenk just referenced, I've had trouble getting that published. So Cenk read it, but it's not published yet. But I'll talk about it right now. Cuomo's sexual harassment allegations are just half of the scandals that he's involved in right now. The other scandal, of course, has to do with the fact that he made awful decisions in forcing nursing homes to readmit elderly patients who still had coronavirus, and that spread coronavirus within these nursing homes. He then proceeded to essentially suppress the actual coronavirus deaths within these nursing homes. In fact, his administration, now we're finding through this investigation, had intentionally altered a report from July in order to hide how many elderly people had died during these in these nursing homes during the pandemic. So clearly, there's evidence now that this was intentional, that they did try to hide the numbers from the public. That's a huge deal. That's a cover up of mass deaths in the state of New York that were at least partially caused by decisions that he made, right? And then the reason why he made that decision, of course, is because he had cut so much funding for hospitals throughout the years that hospitals were already ill-equipped with not enough hospital beds to deal with the coronavirus pandemic. So he was in a panic trying to figure out how he could free up beds, and the decision he made was to send sick elderly people back to these nursing homes. So I wish there was more emphasis on that, because in my opinion, that coupled with the sexual harassment allegations makes him unfit to serve in any office. So I do think that he should step down. But Cenk, as I mentioned, he's unwilling to do that, despite calls from dozens of state legislators to step down. This is the response that he has to those people.
There are some legislators who suggest that I resign because of accusations that are made against me. I was elected by the people of the state. I wasn't elected by politicians. I'm not going to resign because of allegations. The premise of resigning because of allegations is actually anti-democratic, and we've always done the exact opposite. You know, the system is based on due process and the credibility of the allegation. Anybody has the ability to make an allegation in democracy, and that's great. But it's in the credibility of the allegation. Let the Attorney General do her job. She's very good. She's very competent. And that will be due process, and then we'll have the facts. That's why Senator Schumer said, let the Attorney General do her investigation. Senator Gillibrand said, let the Attorney General do her investigation. Congressman Jeffries said, let the Attorney General do her investigation. A White House spokesperson said, let the Attorney General do the investigation, because that's democracy. No, there is no way I resign.
So what stands out to me about that statement is he implies that the allegations against him are not credible, but he has failed to refute any of the allegations. He hasn't denied any of the allegations. But again, I just want to emphasize that that's just half of the scandals that he's involved in right now. The other scandal of covering up mass deaths, that might not be getting as much attention as it deserves. But the fact of the matter is an investigation is already underway, and we already know that his administration intentionally fudged the numbers in order to cover up the fact that he made terrible decisions in his leadership in response to coronavirus.
Okay, so let's note the irony in that statement where he initially said, voters decide elections, not politicians. Then he went on to quote a half a dozen politicians saying that you should let Letitia James, the state attorney general, do her investigation. Well, I thought you said politicians didn't matter. So why did you quote the White House and other politicians on your side? Of course, you think that they matter a lot. You've used those other politicians all the time to cover for you. You're trying to do it now. And the reason why he's saying ignore the other politicians is because, of course, they're against them. And so, look, when a scandal like this hits, if it's not that big a deal, even his enemies won't come out to try to get him because they'll think this is gonna backfire, that he's gonna punish us more. So understand that's how politics works. If it's a pretty big deal, then his political enemies come out and hit him hard. And they did right in the beginning in this case. They immediately knew this was a big deal. And then if it's really bad, your political allies come out against you. And that's what's happening now. So State Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, she's a Democrat. She's saying he's got to go, he's got to resign. And then very influential State Senator Liz Krueger from Manhattan is also saying he's got to go. He's in a world of trouble. Does he pay attention to those politicians? Of course he does. But one more thing on the substance. Anna's right. When he said they're not credible, that actually was a tell, because he is not denied the majority of the allegations. He denies the potential kiss in the first allegation, and he denies the woman who said there was more touching that worked with him 20 years ago, right? But everything else, he seems to be accepting. So why would you say they're not credible? Because in his mind, look, flirting with them and trying to sleep with them when they barely knew me and I was their boss, not that big a deal. That's what he's saying. Now the voters and the politicians will decide, is that a big deal or isn't it? And it is, in my opinion, of course it's a big deal, right? But Anna's right. The other half is also a big deal. Unfortunately, in our political world, the only thing that news people think they are not allowed to talk about policy, and that no one cares about policy. That's not true, but that's what they covered the nursing homes, but they didn't cover the Medicaid cuts at all, which led to the underlying problem. So please cover it all, and then we could all make our own judgments on it.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.